Hi friends, welcome back to our tutorials. This is Angular 16 step-by-step guide for CRUD operations. This is part 10 of the series. So far we have done the introduction, installation, designing the template, generating the component services, routing. We also did the read all, that is get all data. We also did get specific data, that is get by ID. We also did delete a credit card, which is delete operation. Today is an extremely important episode. We are going to learn how to add new credit card, and we will be using template driven form for this. For edit, I will use the same model, but we will use the reactive forms. So that way I want you to learn both template driven forms as well as the reactive forms and master them with me. Let's get started. As part of this series, I am trying to cover all the topics of Angular 16, including the latest concepts of signals and much more. Today, what are we trying to achieve? Today, we will achieve the add new credit card functionality. Like I said, we will be using template driven form in this episode. In the next episode, where we do the edit credit card, I'm going to build the entire form using reactive. Let's get started without wasting any time. We have a lot of coding to do today. So those of you who are new here, this is what we have done so far. We have the dashboard, we have the values that we see here, we have some icons, we have the add new functionality that we will try today. We have the view where we display the data. We can go back. We can also delete an existing credit card. That's what we achieved. And today we are going to work on the add new functionality. Let's get started. At the end of this tutorial series, I'm going to provide all the source code for you for free so that you can download, learn, and master it. Alright, so what are we up to? So we have the source folder, we have the app, and we have a module by the name credit cards. We are building a credit card admin portal which looks like this today. Today's target is to achieve the add new credit card. I'll go to the add component. First check the routing. It says /add. So when we click on this add, it will go to credit card /add, and it says add works, which is basic thing that is here. Now let's start the coding and the tough part. Alright, so first we will approach this problem in 3 steps. First we will build our UI form. Second, we'll implement the component, and third is to integrate it with the service. This is what we will do. So I'm starting with the template now. So I'll be using a mat card. Alright, so inside the mat card we will have a mat card header, and this is where we can add some title to it and say mat card title, and we can add, say, add new credit card. Save it. Now go back. It just says add new credit card, which is good. Now let's work on the mat card content. This is where we will build the actual form, and to start with that, first we'll type form, and since we are using the template driven form, we will give a name of the form. Let's call it credit card form, and it will be ng form because, like I said, we are using the template driven form. And also we will do a submit, right? So let's have it and say save credit card. That's the method we will implement. Close it. Just an empty form, it will give you error. If you see here, the error will say that this method is not defined. So let's go to the component and add that method. For now, just do console log and say form submitted. Once you save, it should be green, it should not be. So since it's saying no directive form found for ng form, that means we did not import the required module, which is forms module. So you will go to the module of credit card.module.ts and import forms module and add it to the list of module arrays. So now you see it's compiled successfully. When you go back, you don't see any change, but the errors are resolved. Go back to component, we have a dummy method, save credit card. It does nothing for now. Let's go back to template. Here we are building our form. So for building a form, first I'm going to write div class equal to form group. Now this is what we will use commonly throughout all the fields. Okay, so now what do I mean by field? Field is nothing but, if you see our model that we have built, credit card model, or you can go here and import it here as well, credit card. So if you see this model that we have used, these are the fields that our form will require, right? So that's what we will have to implement in the form. Alright, so I'll keep typing for you here, follow along. So I am writing form mat form field. Now here we will use a label. I'm going to show you both variations for it. Let's say name, and then we are going to use an input and call it mat input, because we are going to use Angular materials thing. And here we'll say enter credit card name. This is a placeholder, simple placeholder. Alright, so this is just a placeholder, and since we are using template driven forms, we will give name, and let's call it name because that's what our model has. You see here name, that's what I'm using it here. And last, we will have to use the banana model of binding data using ng model. And what we will do is we will create new credit card instance and its name. Now when you save it, it will give you error because it will say new credit card is not defined, right? So let's go to our component class and define that object. Alright, so in the component class, this is the most simplest part. Don't get confused. A lot of people think it's tricky, it's tough. It's not. All you will do here, we have imported the model. We'll build an object using the same. So we will use new credit card, which is of type credit card, and its values. These are the initial values that you will assign. Okay, so you see we have the ID. For now I'm calling it undefined, and the reason because the ID usually will be auto complete or auto generated at the backend. That's why I've given it. So put name empty, whatever fields you have here, right? Description, bank name, all the fields, just bring them here. So I'm going to quickly type them up for you and initialize them to empty. Okay, or if you want, you can put some default value, like I'm saying max credit card value should be 5,000. Then interest rate, let's say 12. Then you have active, set it to true. Then you have recommended score, and you can do that 100 to 500. Again, like I said, you can use this as your reference. That's what I am using, and give the values. And terms and conditions, define something, terms and conditions for the credit card. And then last is it is the date format, so you can take date, and last thing is update date. Okay, so now you see this is defined, and we are saying it's giving an error. It says bank name is missing. So see, if you miss any particular field, it will tell you that particular value that it's missing. So now see, the error is gone because it is exactly of type of our model, which is credit card, right? And we have assigned some basic initial values to the form. Now this is exactly the name that we will use in our form here. If you see, I'm writing new credit card dot name. Same way you can copy this div and put all the other field names. Okay, that's what I'm going to do right now. I hope you are following. It's not tricky. So before I go to and do that work, I'm going to put some checks here. Okay, what are the checks? The checks are for the errors. Let's say if we have an error of required, right? So I'm going to say name is required. Save it, go back to this, and it is not giving that error because we have not yet defined the criteria. So let's go ahead and put that condition in mat error. Now I'm going to put a else ng if else condition. I'm saying if this credit card, right, you see this credit card form, if this form dot control, what is the name of the control? It will be the name exactly what you have given for the name field. Okay, that's very important. A lot of beginners will make this mistake that they don't provide the same name. It should be same what you have assigned for the name attribute. Now we are saying credit card form dot controls of name. Now here you will again do a check that if it is there or not. Okay, I'll show you what happens when you don't give. If that field was touched and has an error, so you will copy paste the credit card form dot, here again you will do control, and again the same thing, you will give name dot, now you will write has error. Okay, take a look at it. The condition is if the field was touched and it has error of, what is the error we are looking for? Required. So in our input we will also add required. If this has required, then you show this error which is name. So see, now I touch it, I step out, it is saying name is required. Open your console log and you will see an error. Okay, you can see here it says cannot read properties of undefined, reading touched. The reason being that when it was initialized it may not find it, so you put question mark. So when you put question mark, that error will go away. Now you open the inspect and console log and the errors are gone. Okay, alright. So now when you touch it and step out, you will see name is required field. That means required is working as expected. Similarly, for the input I am adding min length. That minimum length should be 3 and maximum length should be 20. Okay, so now same thing, you can copy the error, paste it 2 times. Instead of required, you can make it min length. That means minimum length is required, and here you will say name must have at least 3 characters or whatever message you want to give. Same way for max length, you'll say name cannot be more than 20 characters. Alright, same thing I've copy pasted, but the error has changed. One is for required, one is for minimum length, one is for maximum length. Now it would check and give the errors accordingly. Now see here, I touch and step out, it says name is required. Now I enter only one character, it says name must have at least 3 characters. That is the minimum length it's working. When you enter correct data, the errors will go away. Okay, now same way, if you try to type more than 20, it will not allow. Perfect. So this looks good so far. This particular field looks good to us. Now what are we going to do next is copy this entire div. This entire div, because we have already written the validations, we have already written the field. Now you can copy this as it is, and here for the other fields you can use as it is. I am using bank name. So same way you will update the name attribute. Remember, that's very important. A lot of times people make mistake here. So what are we going to do? We are going to use the same name that is there here on the model. So here it is bank name, copy that, and you would use the same. Here you will say bank name, enter bank name. Here you will say dot bank name, and again I'm putting those conditions. In the controls, update the name to bank name because that's the name, that's the new name for this field. Change it here and you are done. Okay, so this will call it bank name, bank name, bank name. Right, so now see, we have two fields, one for name and one for the bank name. Both are working as expected. I can add a value, it says minimum 3. Here also it says at least should have 3, and we can arrange them into a single div. So I'm going to remove this two divs and put them all in same div so they come next to each other, and the validations are also working perfectly. We'll design it better as we move along. Perfect. So we got two fields. Now I hope you are clear about how to add validations to your template driven forms. That's the most important takeaway. Copy the div and the mat form field and paste it outside the div to create a new field, which is the next one is the description. So change the name description. Here also you would change description, and this is the same name that you would have given in the model. Okay, remember that's very important. Enter description, and now I'm going to use something different. Instead of this label, I'm going to use a floating label. So I'll show you what that means. Just change the values that we just learned, put the description. Right, now descriptions are usually text areas, right? So instead of input we will use, let me type this for you. So we'll use a text area, that's how it looks, and then we will tell that this is a mat input, this is a required field, and then we are going to use some placeholder and say enter description. So once you have the description, you would also give the name attribute with the same name as that of in your model. Once you have that, let's use the banana model of ng model equal to, and here you will give new credit card dot description. This is the same name that we used in our component class. Now here you will write description, and again you can give some more variations if you want, but that's all you need, basic thing. For this error we will again use mat error at the condition, same condition that we used earlier. So see, if you get one thing correct, rest everything you can reuse. So here in the mat, just write the same condition, credit card form dot controls dot description, and then you will write here also description has error required. Okay, so here we have given for that mat text area that it is required. Let's go test this out. So see, it's showing, but again it's not showing the value. So let's check why that is. And we have added the description text area ng model, and let's see the error. We have text area and we have mat input, then we have the placeholder required name equal to description, ng model equal to new credit card dot description, and we said it's a required field and has error. Alright, so far looks good. This is controls, credit card controls dot description question mark touched, and credit card form description has error, min length max length, that's good. Let's test this. Did we give required? Yeah, we gave required. Let's put min length also. Enter description. Let's go here. It's giving error but it's not showing that, so let's check why that is happening. Alright, so we got the form field here, and it may be because we did not give the mat input is here required, placeholder name description ng model, description is correct spelling. Alright, ng model required and min length. So sometimes the initialization may also cause the problem, so I'm going to move this towards the end and then we'll check the condition. So here we have the description has error, which is required, and controls and credit card controls dot touched. Let's check this. It's throwing error, but it's not showing that. Maybe some CSS issue. We will fix it as we move along. For now, let's continue to build the form completely. We'll revisit this and fix it. Alright, so the next one that I'm going to show you is another this is the other input details. So we can just copy an input field right here, because if you have an input field you can use them as it is, like for these things like max credit, interest rate, etc. So let's do that. Max credit, and same value you will use here also, which is max credit, and here also you will use max credit, and you would copy the same name. Alright, and you would do the minimum length, maximum length, that should be fine. If I remove the credit, it shows bank name is required. So let's edit this and say max credit is required. Max credit must have at least 3, and max credit cannot be more than 20 characters. So when you delete, step out, it shows the error. That is good. Description we will fix. I'll debug this for you. Alright, the next what we will do is copy again the same thing. If you figure out one field how to do that, rest everything becomes pretty easy and simple, because they are all just copy paste. So here you would do enter interest rate. So now I'm going to quickly build the form for you, and here it's interest rate. Copy that interest rate field, paste it in all the instances of the form that you're working with, and here change the name, interest rate. Same thing you would do, interest rate, here also interest rate. Now you can see the interest rate is also working, max credit is also working, bank name is also working, and name is also working. Like I said, description I'll debug it for you, so don't worry about that. When I give you the code, I will fix that. I'll tell you what's the error. The next field that we will work, interest rate we have already worked, uh, active or not, right? So I'm going to use a checkbox here for you. So instead of this, I'm going to just use a checkbox. So for that we will just write mat checkbox, and we will use this for the active. So I'm going to give a name which is active, this field which is boolean, true or false, so I'm using a checkbox. Now for this again you would give the ng model, again the same name, that is new credit card dot active, that's the field name. And once you have it, you can say whether it is required or not, and you can close the mat checkbox with the label, and the label is active. Now for this you can put a mat error also, and here you can say active must be selected. So the reason I'm showing you is to do all, so that you can learn the validation part. Now you will use the same thing here, controls, right, ng if equal to credit card forms control active, but here the condition will be different. Okay, so you will check for touched. Okay, you will check for touched, and you will check for is required. So you can paste it again and say dot has error required. Okay, so that should complete the mat checkbox, and it's giving an error. It says new credit event is not assignable to boolean. Okay, so we can change that value. Now here, instead of the boolean, what we can do is, since it's, we can change it in the value itself. So let's do that. And what I'm going to do is we have the required and is touched. Okay, perfect. Let's see what's the error. It says can't bind ng model since it's an unknown property. That means it's an unknown property means we'd have to import that particular API. So from the API you will import the mat checkbox module and put it in credit cards module. Alright, so you can, it says mat checkbox module and it is saying duplicate identifier. So I think we already have that, but have we imported it is the question. Let's check it. We have imported it. Okay, so we have used that checkbox. That should be good, but it says cannot use it. Let's see why. um, is it something else that we need to update? uh, let's see. Here it's saying mat required credit card. Okay, so we got the mat. Okay, all right. Custom elements model is in Angular. It's not a property of mat checkbox. Let's see what it is. So here I have the checkbox name equal to active, and then we are building that particular form. It looks okay to me, but doesn't look okay to the code. So let's debug. So half the time we will only be debugging, so that's an important part, so don't skip it. Like it or not, we have to learn it. Okay, so now let's check it here one more time. Go through each line and check what it says. We have the mat checkbox, which is good and clean on that side. Then we put down the name, which is active and which is same as the active here. Let's check the component. Okay, this is good. And oh, see, I have written mg form. That's the problem. Okay, so now we got this, right? So we got the checkbox also. So spelling mistakes also take a toll, so check it correctly. The next field that I'm going to add is copy this div again, and now I'm going to implement this select drop down to show you different variations. So I've shown you checkbox, I have shown you text area, I have shown you checkbox. Now I'm going to show you the drop down. All right, let's go ahead and again let's implement mat form field. Now you have the mat form field. I'm going to throw in a mat select, which is nothing but the drop down. So for the mat select I'm going to use the placeholder, and placeholder, so we don't have placeholders for select, so that you don't need that, but you can still add it. Some browsers will process it. Okay, so I can say select recommended score. Okay, that's number one. Again we'll give a name, and the name we have is recommended score. Okay, and then we will bind the ng model equal to, and give the name again like how we have been giving so far, the name of the new object that we have dot recommended score. That's the name of the model that we are binding. Now that you have it, what we'll do next is build the options inside the mat select. So we'll use mat option, and let's say first value is 100 to 500, second is 300 to 500, the second is 200 to 400, and last is 400 to 600. Okay, some values that we have given. Now let's go to our, and you can see the drop down is also here. I can select that value. Okay, so the reason it's not selecting is because we need to assign that initial value. So let's see why that is not happening, because we have not given the values here. So 500, whatever values you have given here, Same thing you can assign back, and value 200 to 400 and value equal to 400 to 600. Now when you go and select the drop down value, you can see now it's changing value from whatever user will select. Okay, so now you have the name, bank name, description, max credit, interest rate, active or not, recommended score. So I'm going to throw in a label, say select recommended score, credit score. Okay, now that's the one, and then we can increase the width. I'll put that styling in just a bit. First I want to cover all the different types of options that I want to teach you. Alright, so we have annual fee, so we can just copy the one that we wrote here for interest rate. That's similarly number, right? We can copy that as it is, and you can call it annual rate, and then annual fee, I think, yeah, annual fee. So make it annual fee and enter annual fee, and here you'll write annual fee. Copy this multiple times, update the object that you're building and the error, and you should be done. Now you have the annual fee also at the bottom. If you don't enter and step out, it says interest rate is required, so make it annual fee. It's taking time because the form is big, it is complex, and I want you to learn all the different combinations. Alright, so annual fee is working, interest rate is working, max credit is working, bank name is working. Description, like I said, I'll debug it for you, maybe some CSS issue, we'll take a look. Alright, so now we have covered everything. The last thing I want you to learn is the date picker. Okay, that's another important aspect when you're working with the template driven form. So I'm going to code that from scratch for you. Now you have the div form group, and what we will do, let's put a mat label first, and we will say choose a date, date. Now here input. Now this is where things will get little tricky because it's little different than others. So we are going to say mat date picker because that's what we will be using, and we will use updated date picker, right? Or creation date picker, whatever you want to use that toggle for, right? So simple. The most basic thing that you can do is first define the required attributes, like require mat input, you got required, then you are going to say um, say mat date picker equal to created date, created date picker, that's a variable name that I'm giving, and min length equal to 3, let's say, and placeholder select date, and last important thing is the name, right? So I'm going to give it here name, which will be same as the one that we gave in the model. So here you will give created date, and final thing, like how we have been binding, because this is a template driven form, so you would just do the binding ng model, and here you will write created date. See here, created date, same thing you can copy, and done. Okay, so this, let's close the input. Now you have closed the input, so let's see how it looks. It says can't bind mat date picker since it's an unknown property. So for that, whenever you get an error, first thing you should do is go to API and check if that API is included or not. So go to the module and import it here and add it to the list of modules. Now that you have added the module, it still says it's failed to compile. Let's see, can't bind date uh, picker. Okay, so that's because in the CSS, that is the component, we need to update it as well. Okay, but we will have to create that instance of date picker. Okay, so what we will do is we will implement that by writing this code. This is the mat label. You will get an error here till here. Okay, so don't worry, but first we need to add the mat date picker, and we will tell that for what is the name that we have given here, created date picker. Just assign the same value here. So basically you are telling that this is a date picker and you create it here. So that's one, and you can also create a date picker toggle. So that way what will happen is every time you click on that instance, you will show a small calendar thing that it would show like an icon where you click and it will open. Copy this date picker and mat date picker toggle, and it is still saying failed. So now it's saying can't bind the date picker since it's an unknown element. Okay, so let's see here, it says date picker module, we have added that, and let's review the code what we missed out. So we have the mat input, that's correct, then we have the required, then we have the name field which is created date, that's good, then we have the ng model name and we have given this, and we are saying it's a date picker, mat date picker, and we have assigned the value, minimum length and placeholder. This is okay. Here we are giving created date picker, which is the same name, date picker toggle, and it is still giving error, can't bind to date picker since it's an unknown property of input. Okay, it is not taking for the input. Maybe we missed out on importing some module. Let me check the documentation real quick and see if we missed anything. I'm not sure, but date picker may require few things. So we added the date picker. Let's check this code and see what we missed. So I picked up the date picker toggle. This is good. I picked the um, input start date, and or you can take some simple example like this one, basic picker, and it says you have the date picker toggle and enter a date range. Let's check what we missed. It's too much coding, I know, but we need to bear it. We will run into errors. I'm trying my best. So this is how you would have real time. I don't want to edit anything. This is all real time coding that I'm doing. So chances are that I will run into same errors that you are also seeing. Okay, so and that's where you would actually learn. Okay, I don't want to do the edit work and show you just the rosy picture. Alright, let's check this code again. So we have the um, data in place, but first we need to check this. So we got the mat form field, we got the credit card, sorry, we got the mat input. Okay, um, let's remove this mat label and see. So it is, let's see the error here. It says cannot bind mat date picker since it's an unknown property of input. Okay, so let's Google this and see what the error could be. And usually it's just that it's missing some. Okay, native, yeah, that's the thing I missed out. So see, I did not include that module. Yeah, all right, so one is that you pick the mat date picker module. The other thing that you would also need is the mat native. Okay, that's also required, otherwise it won't work, and that's where I made a mistake by not including that. So let's do that from Angular material core. Okay, it comes from Angular material slash core, and you would add this date module back to list of arrays. Okay, so let's see, now it should resolve. So we have added the mat native date module. Okay, and what else are we missing? be missing anything else. Date picker we add. Let me try and compile this again. Sometimes it's just not compiled, so it will give you that error. So I really want to show you the date picker, that's why I'm trying hard. Let's see if this solves anything. Alright, it still failed to compile. Cannot bind mat date picker since it's an unknown property. Let's see, mat input required name, and then we have the required mat input mat date picker. Have we added that? Let's check. Mat, let's check the spelling, because most times it's the spelling mistake that we would have done. Created date picker, and this looks good. Let's see if I don't know if we need to do anything there. I'm not sure, but we can add and check. But maybe because let's see this one last time, or else I'll give you this code later, but I don't want to leave it high and dry. Let's check this right away. We got the new credit card dot created date, and we are using required mat input. We got the date picker toggle, that's mat date picker, and we are creating the mat date picker module here for ng date picker, and toggle we have closed. Mat select can't find. Let's see what it is saying. So we imported mat date picker module, mat native. You have, while using date picker, you have to import as well as, okay, that we did. And maybe it's the forms, and you need to import, that's we did. Alright, use mat date picker application, we imported these two, but still there is an error. Let's check one last time again. I'm not sure what's going wrong here. Mat, is it because we did not wrap it in the mat form field? That might be one of the classic mistakes that I would have done. Let's see, mat form field, because that's the wrapper that is required, and we have the mat form field wrapper that's in place, and we have the mat input. Mat, let's do one thing, let's move this to the front, because sometimes the binding will cause a problem. So let's check it here, and we move the mat date picker, length, name, ng model, and okay, I'm going to debug this for you. This episode is going too long, and it's taking something basic thing I have missed out. I have included mat native, I have included the date picker. What else have I missed? I'm not sure. Maybe is it the sequence? That should not have a problem. Anyways friends, what I will do is I will work on this form. I'll continue building. It's just some small error that I would have missed somewhere here and there. I'll debug it for you. We will end the, at least what I'll do is before ending, I'm going to comment this off for you. We will fix this. I'm going to show you this later, but for now we have this form. Let me add a submit button and show you how that would look when you try to submit it, and then we will close it by seeing the data that is sent. I'll continue this episode again in order to fix that date issue and making it dynamic. For now, let's just make it mat raised button, and I'm going to say color should be primary, and I'm going to say add new credit card. So we have that. Now you see here we have the button, and we can add a condition that if there are errors in this form, don't enable the form itself. So I'm going to say disable equal to, and I'll say if credit card form dot is, if it's not valid. Now what's the error again? It says can't bind disable since it's an unknown property of button. So now let's check. Oh, it's not disable, it's disabled. So spelling again mistake, sorry about that. Alright, so now the form is disabled because you need to enter the details. Let me open the console, and in the console what we will do in the component is we will log and print the new form, this dot new credit card. That's where all the values will be updated. Alright, let's inspect and go to console and clear this, and here I'm entering credit card name, bank name, description of the credit card, and rest all values are auto populated. So when I hit add new, I should see the form which will give us the latest values entered here. So when I click here, you can see the bank name is here, annual fees, active is true, description, max credit, name is also populated, recommended score, and everything, right? So basically we have built a form and we are collecting the data. I'll continue working on this episode is going too long, but I promise I'll fix this date issue as well as some of the designing and integrate it with the actual API. I'm trying to do live coding so that you learn from the mistakes, from the errors as well. Okay, this is not a rosy thing that I show you things working and you don't get to learn. My idea is that you should learn, and that's what is our primary goal. Thank you so much for joining. We will continue this. I'm not going to do edit existing credit card. I'm going to build on the add credit card. We'll design it better. We'll fix that date issue and we'll move forward with edit. Right. Thank you so much for joining. Please do show some love by liking, sharing, and subscribing to my channel. Thank you. Let's continue building that ad in the next episode.